In preparation for the coming elections, it's important for our communities to remain motivated and optimistic in voting for a candidate that will not only affect themselves, but the future generations to come. Though who you vote for is very important, it is more important that you get out there and vote, as every vote matters. So our first question is, what do you look for in a candidate when you are casting your vote for the presidential election?
You know, I used to actually think that looking for people who were, politicians, like anybody else, can tell a lie. Anybody can lie, anybody can deceive you, anybody can mislead you. We've always seen politicians say one thing, and then even for people who I think have very high character, high morality, they get into office and they can't do some of the things they want to do, and then people say, well, you lied to us. You said you were going to do this, or said you were going to do that. And so I think we've had a couple presidents recently. I think Bush and Obama were great examples of presidents who got in charge and they couldn't do a lot of things they said they wanted for various reasons, very different reasons why they were there, but I think it's very similar. Since the last two presidencies, probably the most important thing is trying to find somebody who's A, going to be honest to you, but who B, is going to think about, even when they get in office, what they say to people. Do other people believe they're honest? Do other countries believe they're honest? Do people believe in them? Mm-hmm. And I just think what we've seen the last couple of years is made me shift my mindset in terms of what I look for. So I want to look for somebody who, like, my kids are going to be able to respect, and like the 1,100 kids I work with are not going to think that if that's the highest office and that person is doing this or lying here, this type of person, the type of person they are, is my point, has become so much more important to me than it was when I was younger. It's always been important, but now I just think it's vital because it gives people reasons to either act a certain way, or maybe validation for why they should feel a certain way. I just think that person there and their character and their morals is probably more important to me than it ever has been, because of what we've seen the last 8 years, to be honest with you. As far as what I look for in casting my vote, I'm going to see it as I'm casting a vote for somebody who I'm co-signing to be someone that I can tell my kids and my family and my kids at school that this person makes sense. Mm-hmm. And is going to do the right thing for us and the right thing by you. And I just feel like, as I've gotten older, I really started to think more about how valuable that vote is. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I wrote in a vote, a couple elections ago, just because I didn't like the two, people that were running so much. I wrote in a vote. I would never do that again, because now I see the impact of almost as important for who you don't vote for as who you do.
And that will lead into my next question. And how do you feel about the current climate of the upcoming elections and the possible voter turnout?
I don't know, I'm sad for it. To be honest with you, I'm sad. I'm sad that we have to go through this again. I'll do my personal take on it. As far as it pertains to voter turnout, I'm worried that people are going to say, like, what's the point? It's like you go to a game or you have two options and then you get the same two options again. And I don't know, I personally am not overly motivated by the two options. And so I think, you go into an election thinking, like, what's the point? Mm-hmm. I'm somebody who's, guided by previous experiences and believing that vote matters. If you're someone who doesn't believe that vote matters, why would you go? Mm-hmm. And I can see people on both sides of it, specifically people for the Democratic Biden side right now that could basically not be motivated based off of some of the things that have happened the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. And the voting turnout impacted, or better yet, the lack of voter turnout impacting this election so severely that we actually get somebody in office that the majority of people, or the large majority of people, are not behind, but they got enough votes in the right places, and enough people just decided to not go out because they were either frustrated or irritated, or just weren't enough behind the candidate who they really wanted to vote for. Even though they didn't like candidate A, candidate B wasn't sign enough for them to get out of their house and go take their time. And I'm telling you, I think those lines are going to be long, and I think you're going to go to certain places and you're going to have, I remember when it was Obama, and actually I take that back, the first, I think it was Trump, Clinton. Mm-hmm. I think it was like an hour and a half wait at my polling station, I think for Obama and not McCain, but Romney, I think it was like an hour and 45 minutes. I can see a lot of people going and seeing that line and being like, you know what?
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. I'm not motivated enough to do it. That's the key, the motivation here.
Yeah.
I really worry about it.
Great. And our last question I would like to ask about, as a school leader, in what ways would you try to protect your environment of your students and family during the election cycle?
That try word is the key word, my friend, because it's going to be an attempt. Because right now, I feel like what we've seen in the last 7 years, what I've seen in terms of polarization and opinions, the lack of trust and the lack of belief in who people are and what they say they are, the best thing we can do, and I hate to School should be, I got so many thoughts on this, almost hard to even put them together.
Right.
School should be a safe place. I was a U.S. history teacher. I was an AP psychology teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I was that during the election of McCain or of McCain and Obama.
Mm-hmm.
And we had fascinating conversations about what Obama meant to the country, about him winning, about what McCain meant to the country. Like looking back now, like I get chills. Like it was like about real people and real leaders and what the power was and the opportunity of a war hero who, you know, would come and possibly, you know, did this, that, and whatever. And Obama and all he stood for and all he could represent. Like to think about that almost makes me emotional when you compare to what we're dealing with now. Like it's almost sad. Like it really is. It's sad for, I think, for 18-year-olds and our young voters who are this is what they're up against. But the only thing we can do is try to provide opportunities for kids to have safe conversations, because what we're seeing obviously is nowhere in social media, anywhere can you have a safe, honest conversation. People are typically guided by who they are for, not what they actually believe in. And so I think it's hard for people, even adults, it's hard for 40, 50, and 60-year-old people to sit down at the table and actually hear each other and listen to hear. So I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but I think that's going to be an extreme challenge for schools. And I think unless you get kids together who just share the same mindset, it's going to be an extremely challenging and possibly even dangerous type of situation and equation just for schools, because of how strongly people feel about this stuff and how strong the dinner table conversations around this are going right now. Like, I mean, I was at a funeral 2 weeks ago and somebody just starts talking about one of the people. Like it's crazy to me how much people are identifying with their leaders or about who they're picking maybe with this. So I think that safe environment is going to be a challenge, real challenge for all schools.
And I think for the safe environment, it becomes with building relationships as educational leaders. Absolutely. And allowing not only the students but the families to feel trusted and voicing their opinions in a safe space, but also coming to you for support if they have some questions.
That's
about
the key.
What's coming.
And showing respect and
Yes.
hopefully having the respect of just trying to focus on, well, you believe this and that's fine. Build your beliefs off of why you would value this thing. There's nothing wrong with voting for any person in the history of the world if you have a true belief and a value for how they're impacting things and you connect with their values or their leadership. It is what it is. So I think that's the key. It's going to be very difficult, I think, for some adults to even not. And I think personally, I think everybody's going to have a hard time in this next election. Adults are really going to have to watch themselves if they open their classes up to this, to not allow their own opinions and own thoughts, because I think everybody is so opinionated and thoughtful about this because of what we've been through the last 8 years.
I agree. And thank you.
Thank you.
As a country and community in our preparation for the upcoming election, we must be aware of the propaganda that may be forced to us through social media platforms and other news outlets via Russia and China and other outside entities outside of the United States. The uses of AI and social media platforms such as Twitter and TikTok will be a persuading factor in Russia and China's attempt to affect our election. It's important for you to continue to look towards your morals and values as you evaluate the candidates for the coming election, and still get out there and vote.
One of our active followers submitted a question for discussion saying, how can we involve more diverse communities to take political action and vote, all while protecting our individual morals and values? Great question, Lancer Leader. Thanks for the follow, and let's break it down. First, we can enhance political education, where schools and community organizations should emphasize civic education to equip citizens with the knowledge and skills necessary to participate in the democratic process. Next, promoting voter registration and accessibility. By simplifying the voter registration process and ensuring that all eligible citizens have easy access to polling locations, we can remove systematic barriers to voting. Let's encourage diverse representation, where we support a broader range of candidates that can invigorate the political landscape and offer voters more choices that align with their values and beliefs. How about fostering community engagement more, where local community events and discussions can help to rekindle interest in political participation and make politics more relevant to everyday life? And lastly, we can utilize social media positivity, where social media has become a main source of disinformation and many of the factors that turn voters off of the electoral process. However, it can also be used to turn things around. Leveraging social media to educate and engage rather than to polarize can convert it into a powerful tool in reversing voter apathy. Voting requires a collective effort for educators, politicians, community leaders, and most importantly, the voters, us. Only then can we ensure a true representative and functional democracy. Remember, your vote is your voice. Let it be heard.